see some ranks still open, of course. Here some empty seats. That is certainly, of course, not because of our program, because I have in mind, of course, maybe it's because of a party of Switzerland and a reception of Switzerland, which have turned out to be really, well, I would say, inviting, and with a lot of good conversations, and obviously, of course, still a lot of follow-up to be done this morning. So hopefully, of course, the follow-up will step-by-step move here to the hall, and we'll be here. I welcome all of you here today to our working session 18, the very last working session. I hope, of course, that we will today, in our a little bit different format as usually, of course, from the other working sessions, will have a good discussion. It is my special privilege today to welcome our Secretary General, Lamberto Zanier, Secretary General of OSCE, who joined us last evening for the reception and will intervene today here with us. A special welcome to Lamberto Zanier. So this session traditionally comes last, and the format is somewhat different. This year, even more so because it is shorter and comes right before our closing session. The plenary here remains a very important platform, and therefore we are happy to have this time to give the floor to a number of field operations and institutions to present recent project initiatives, with ODIHR taking a back seat, and of course also to hear your views on human dimension activities in the organization. So here is to the field operations and other institutions. Attention to the work done day by day by the many staff in the field operations and other structures is absolutely crucial. Projects fulfill multiple roles in the OSCE. They do not try only to reach their intended goals of building capacity, raising awareness, creating tools and mechanisms. They also build confidence, help prevent conflict, and keep us engaged with our counterparts. Presentations during this session, therefore, in the recent years, and in particular in this last year, tried to demonstrate how ODIHR and also the field operations, obviously supported by the Secretariat, have worked together hard to improve and strengthen the project management framework and practices. And you will hear later in the latest on that also this year from the Conflict Prevention Center today. This is in response to increasing expectations in terms of accountability, transparency, and quality control from you, the participating states and other donors, but also has been driven by OSCE staff involved in project implementation and coordination across the organization, who see the benefits of sound project management way beyond an obligation or justification. A good example of this is the evaluation network, which comprises representatives from each executive structure and met earlier this week on the margins of the HDIM. Evaluation, which needs to be given adequate and appropriate attention, again, not so much as a backward-looking exercise, but one firmly focused on the future. And speaking of cooperation and coordination between different parts of the organization, in particular between field operations and the institutions, it will become clear from the work presented by a number of them here today that despite the challenges generated by the often complex interplay, the added value of our organization still lies exactly in the complementary expertise and perspective of our different structures. With these words, I would like to hand over to our moderator for this session, my first deputy director, the first deputy director of ODIHR, Beatrice Balbin. She will lead you through this meeting, and therefore, of course, Beatrice, the floor is to you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you for these introductory words that already set the tone of what the session is going to be like. As mentioned by the director, this session would be slightly different, and it is my pleasure to present to you our introducer, Ms. Sebne Lust, who is the acting head of the Programming and Evaluation Support Unit within the Conflict Prevention Center. Her introduction will be followed by contributions from 3 OSCE field operations and the Office of the Representative on Freedom of the Media, who have kindly agreed to join us today to present the project work, and the project work specifically in the human dimension. And after that, the floor will be open for contributions from participants. At this point in time, we have only 3 requests for the floor, so the list obviously is still open. If any of you would like to, if any one of you would like to sign up, the list is just behind this high table. So let me present Sebnem Last as our introducer today. She joined the OSCE in 2004 and has occupied a number of positions, gradually specializing in results-based management, evaluation, effectiveness in program delivery, and accountability. She has been a key member of the team that rolled out the results-based management system across the OSCE. She is the main author of the OSCE Project Management Manual that harmonized the organization's approach to project management. Prior to the assumption of her duties in the OSCE, she served in the European Commission, DG Economic and Financial Affairs, in the private sector and academia. So, Sebnem, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Perhaps we can reflect the presentation on the screens. Okay.
There it is.
Secretary General, Director, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As the first speaker of today's working session, I was requested by Deputy Director Balbin to give you a short and inspiring presentation. I'll do my best to meet that expectation, and I will try to set the scene for my co-speakers, giving you our perspective as we see it from the Secretariat on human dimension projects. This is, ladies and gentlemen, is an eastern-tailed blue butterfly. In Latin, it goes as Cupido communitas. Now, when we look at the most frequent themes in the projects in human dimension this year we have seen, you can think of this butterfly as a Roma integration project, a justice reform project, a war crimes project, civil society development project, tolerance and non-discrimination project trying to tackle hate speech. A project manager knows this butterfly, the eastern-tailed blue butterfly. To be precise, it lives in North America, inside out, whether she or he is in Ukraine, in Kyrgyzstan, or here in the ODIHR, undertaking regional projects. A project manager can exactly describe you what benefits this project will bring. And as butterflies goes, projects have a finite life. They are supposed to begin, bring concrete benefits, and finish. This is what my Secretary General sees when he is wearing his chapeau as the fund manager of the Secretariat, or what Director Link sees as the fund manager of the Secretariat. We no longer see the beautiful eastern-tailed blue butterfly, the Cupido communitas. We see the programs. The most important message I would like to give you with this slide is that the OSCE is not a project-driven organization. For your projects to have impact, for our projects together with civil society, with host countries to have an impact, to magnify that impact, project needs traditional diplomatic work. What you are undertaking in the FSC, in the Permanent Council, here in the HDIM, a major peer review of your human dimension commitments, and it needs to be synchronized with political monitoring and reporting. And if you see, this is, by the way, this is Salvador Dali's Departure of the Winged Ship, a tribute to Spain. And if you see on the corner, if Council of Europe is together with us today, I don't know where their representative is, they're also putting up positioning sails. They have opened regional offices in a couple of places, so this also shows the need to coordinate. Now, this is what our delegations see. This is a flotilla of ships. And they are trying to, please disregard the location if you know where this regatta has sailed. They are trying to make this flotilla sail towards our, first of all, political military, then economic dimension, and political and human dimension commitments. And trying to make sense of the cost of this flotilla. It's not only unified budget, it's also XP. We have special monitoring mission to Ukraine. It's a special fund, not exactly XB only, and not UB. And you try to make sense of it all and what impact this flotilla is having. So when you gauge, try to understand what the impacts we are having as the OSCE, you should not only look at a single ship. You should look at all the work ODIHR is doing, HCNM is doing, Freedom of Media is doing. In the Secretariat, what TNTD is doing, what Special Representative on Combating Trafficking in Human Beings doing, and slowly you will see, and I know this is what you exactly do in your MFAs, a picture emerges of the impact that the OSCE is having. Having said that, there still is a lively debate about the results, the accountability, the achievements or the progress the OSCE is recording in the current years. And this lively debate is also taken in the context of Helsinki Plus 40. And at the heart of this debate, I have to say, because as a technical expert I'm dealing with it, is key performance indicators. For the human dimension projects, I should like to offer a caveat for your consideration. It is difficult to tell you how many nautical miles an hour human dimension commitment ships sail. It's difficult to quantify because these are social changes, legal changes. They take time and they require long-term engagement. There are three key factors that influence our impact. One is the geopolitical context. We can't influence it. As your servants, we are at your disposal. We try to implement the mandates you give us and the policy guidance you give us. The second factor that influences whether or not, or to what extent we are getting results, is the nature of the mandate you give us. We sail through sunny and stormy weather. We sail with different ships of different sizes with different mandates. There's a, and this is not a secret, there's a more pronounced trend of changing the mandates. Political monitoring and reporting is important to get impacts in human dimension. But there's a third factor. Having said the geographical, geopolitical mandate factors is the operational capacity. We need money and we need good people, qualified people to do the job. And I will come to the money issue. That brings me to my next slide. This is the graph that was published by OECD. Up until recently, my friends back at home used to confuse OSCE with OECD. And now I think we are over, unfortunately, due to sad events and the developments in Ukraine. OECD in April 2014 published this graph. I should like to focus your attention on the light blue patch. That's multilateral assistance. Here there are 4 components. The first one is the net debt relief. So when countries, international organizations scrap the debts of individual states. The other is humanitarian aid, the green patch. And the light blue patch I would like you to focus on is multilateral assistance. And the dark blue patch, the heaviest, chunkiest, is your bilateral assistance. Now, what we've seen recently, in the past 2 years, and my Secretary General had to hear this again and again from you, and as staff members serving him, we also had to hear again and again that in 2011 and 2012, your ministries, your governments had to take austerity measures, and they cut multilateral aid considerably. Now, good news is that this austerity trend is reversed. The numbers are telling us that multilateral assistance, that means what we share together with Council of Europe, with the World Bank, with the IMF, everybody, the international family together, the pie has grown, the pie that's available to us to share and to bring benefits to our participating states. It reached an all-time high, $134.8 billion US. That's almost $9 billion difference compared to 2012. The OECD DAC member states are still the most prominent donors, but there's a growing role of other countries. For instance, BRIC plus T. We have 2 participating states, Russian Federation and Turkey in there. that have become also prominent donors. Now, I am fully aware, last night I heard on the BBC that a Swiss Red Cross worker lost his life in Donetsk. In Donetsk, as I speak, we have 43 mission members of the SMM. So I know that this is a positive trend, but it comes at a moment where we are seeing crisis plight of people in Iraq, in Syria, fighting in West Africa, Ebola. So there's also more need. But please, we are a small, comparatively, in monetary terms, a small international outfit. And we are punching really like Muhammad Ali above our weight with a relatively small flotilla we have. So please do consider contributing more significantly to our extra budgetary projects, but also approving our unified budget in a timely manner. It is critical. Now going back to who is doing human dimension projects, we just wanted to show you a snapshot. This is not a comprehensive technical analysis. We just looked at the projects we started since January 2012 up until yesterday. And as you can see, almost 80% of the human dimension projects initiated in the OSCE are either initiated by institutions, 44% of them. I hope the graph is clear enough. The purple part of the pie chart is institutions, and 35% is Southeastern Europe. And the other regions are really small. We see some movement in Ukraine for reasons we all know, but the flagship operations are carried out by institutions in Southeastern Europe. Now, the problem is, I look also to the money, the contributions these projects got in 2012, in 2013, and 2014. And what we see is, we ask for almost, typically I also looked at the budgets. This is not reflected for the benefit of precision in this graph. We asked typically 50% more than we got. Yeah, so the projects were budgeted in 2012 for 22 million euros. We only got 11.2 million. In 2013, this is the blue bars, please bear with me, we got only 8.7 million across the OSCE. And in 2014, we only got 3.9. We need your contributions if you would like us to continue to sustainably and meaningfully engage. Now, the pink bar, you might wonder what's going on. That's the special monitoring mission to Ukraine, obviously. So, but now a final word for us, turning the mirror back on us after having made our call for the consideration of our participating states to executive structures, civil society, international organizations. Strategic planning, by and large, despite calls, despite, for instance, Paris Aid Declaration of OECD DAC donors, still remains an internal process. We have to defy the cycle of planning internally within our little executive structures. And I do not mean seeking to direct each other, not at all. We have different mandates. That is what our participating states told us to do. But we have to together meaningfully prioritize, together coordinate, and together consolidate projects wherever we can, when mandates allow it. Second, we have to, in connection with the first point, set operational outcomes we expect. The challenge we have is the multilateral assistance our participating states are giving to us is taxpayers' money. We have to account. Their ministries go in front of the parliaments and say what their multilateral assistance has achieved. So we need to show that this is the roadmap. Of course, we're going to explain that we work in complex environments, and it's not that evident to talk about nautical miles an hour, to give numerical performance indicators, of course. But our delegations know that. But our responsibility is to say, we did a proper needs assessment. We know there is a need for this project. We coordinated properly. We are not duplicating the work of other international organizations, and this goes vice versa. for other international organizations. And finally, we have to monitor projects regularly. We have to evaluate when they are still being implemented, not when they are closed and you can't fix things that have been not going as well as we thought they would. Fix them when you're still implementing. And beyond reporting, you need to communicate with participating states in a frequent fashion, in an open fashion, in a transparent and accountable fashion on where we are having challenges as well as where we are getting results. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebnem. I have to say I really enjoyed your presentation. There's not much I can comment after such a clear and specific amount of information that you have provided us with. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Now, before I open the floor for participants to address their comments or questions, I have the pleasure to now invite our colleagues coming from field operations and from other institutions to share with us their own experiences in project work. We have four, three from field operations, one from one of the sister institutions. And I would like to invite first Andrei Juvenko from the office in Ukraine to share with us their project experience.
Thank you. Secretary General, Director, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege for me to be able to present to you a portfolio of human dimension projects run by the OSCE project coordinator in Ukraine. For almost a year, Ukraine has been in the headlines of world press, and of course there was ever-increasing demand for OSCE help and assistance. And this period of time was of course a challenge for the coordinator and its team to adapt to quickly changing environment and to be able to respond to new needs and requirements of our Ukrainian partners. And of course, speaking of our Human Dimension project, this difficult time was also a test for relevance, a test for importance of our activities for the future and stability of Ukraine. Before I get down to describing our activities, I would like to make a brief reminder of specifics of our mandate, because it is very specific and focused on the project activities. We plan, implement, and monitor projects that are developed on request from Ukrainian partners, and we start implementing them only after we obtain the approval of the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. One of the most important areas where we were able to deliver is elections. And recently our main focus in this area was on two areas. Firstly, we worked with the Ukraine Central Election Commission to build its capacity to train elections officials on the ground, and secondly, we've been working to enhance awareness of voters of their rights and voter-related procedures. And for 2014, the real challenge was that we had to swiftly adapt our operational plans 2 times to better meet specific needs of Ukrainians. Once for early presidential elections in May, and second time for the announced elections of Verkhovna Rada for October 26. And ladies and gentlemen, you are all aware of how important those elections were in view of the ongoing events. And one of the important aspects is an ability to conduct those elections in a good manner. And to that, our efforts to provide tools of training for people who administer elections on the ground, they were highly relevant. For elections in May, as there were changes introduced to election legislation, there was an urgent need to provide training to election personnel. And previously, as we developed an online training tool and even were able to test it at last year's December by-elections, this time our major success was that we were able to quickly develop a new training course for presidential elections, and it was available for any commissioner working on the ground. But to achieve a maximum positive effect, we also have developed a number of print materials, and we were able to timely distribute to them to people who were administering elections. A similar amount of help is being provided right now, as Ukraine is preparing to conduct a vote on October 26. And we have an online training course developed, and we are also distributing, in the process of printing and distribution of 270,000 of different manuals for election commissioners. In the area of voter awareness, we have been conducting awareness-raising campaigns. For presidential elections, we produced 3 public service announcements to inform voters on the novelties in electoral process. Some of them were directed on informing how voters can register and be able to vote. Others on the new provisions that provide responsibility for repeat voting and vote buying. Information on voting procedure itself was also in place. And we got an overwhelming response from broadcasters, from advertisers to take those materials and broadcast them free of charge, and we've managed to get free broadcast on 17 nationwide and 30 regional TV stations. Also, there were announcements run on radio stations, and screenings were provided in supermarkets, cafes, and restaurants. We also actively used online tools, and we also delivered posters to be placed at the polling station on election day. For these early parliamentary elections, we are also delivering a similar amount of assistance, but this time we also have a new focus. That is, there is a need to take into account of the problems that people who had to leave their places of residence due to conflict events, and we have produced at least one of our public service announcements, inform them on how they are able to register and to be able to vote. And you can see on the screen a screenshot from this public service announcement that will be run starting from the next week. Ladies and gentlemen, we have also a very good expertise in helping Ukraine to build a system of combating human trafficking. We are currently rolling out a national referral mechanism, a system of interaction between social service providers, NGOs, and law enforcers to identify and assist victims of trafficking. And we have developed a new project that will be with which we will be able to use this obtained expertise also to help the people, the internally displaced persons, people affected by conflict-related migration. Among other responses to new and existing threats and challenges in this area, we've started a project piloting of social business models as a tool to finance anti-trafficking NGOs, and at the same time to provide employment and profession to vulnerable groups and victims of trafficking in human beings. We are also distributing new information materials. Our projects in rule of law and human rights protection are also relevant as ever. We deal with reform of legal education, improving coherence of court practice, the application of international law in national proceedings. We support Ombudsman Plus model as a tool to prevent torture and ill treatment in detention facilities. We work to enhance gender equality, to fight discrimination and combat gender-based violence. As a part of specific new responses, I can mention that we've managed to train over 900 judges on electoral law international standards in ensuring vote-related rights on the eve of both early presidential and parliamentary elections. We started a new project to support development of system of monitoring of court decisions and trial monitoring by the civil society as a way of enhancing public trust in court system. And we've developed a new project to support police reform. Our work in civil society and media development is also very important, and it is focused on improvement of cooperation between civil society organizations and state authorities. We also support dialogue between journalists and law enforcers on safety during public events and promote use of online tools by journalists and better application of professional and ethical standards. Ladies and gentlemen, with this brief overview, I would like to state that we stand ready to continue helping Ukraine to respond to existing and new challenges in line with our mandate, and not only in human, but all the three OSCE dimensions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andrei, for a very comprehensive review of project work that you are doing in Ukraine. Thank you very much for that. I would like now to invite Oliver Schuet from OMIC to share with you some of their experiences. Thank you.
Excellencies, Secretary General, Excellencies, Secretary General, Director, dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Oliver Schuet, Chief of the Public Participation Section from the OSCE mission in Kosovo. It's my pleasure today to present to you OMIC's youth and youth-related projects. Just on a little side note, the presentation we prepared was supposed to run as a background information, but unfortunately, due to the setup, the people not sitting at the table are not able to see it, so I will try to mix and match so that the people not at the table also get a good overview. In the democratization department of the mission, there's now a new section, the section of public participation. This was an attempt to also consolidate OMIC's youth, women, and civil society organization projects. This, of course, also underlines the importance the mission is attaching to working with youth, but also with women and civil society organizations. Besides the activities that are outlined below on the slide, I should also mention why working with youth is deemed so important. Approximately half the population in Kosovo is under the age of 25 years, and the unemployment rate, according to official statistics, is around 70%. Hence, it is essential that young men and women are given opportunities not just to enter in the labor market, but also to have a say in the decision-making processes in Kosovo. I would just like to mention one highlight of our work under the democratization department. That was the participation in the European Youth and Youth Capital 2014, which was held in Thessaloniki. 18 youth participated for 3 days in the event, and it also included government officials. The meetings were held with the deputy mayor of Thessaloniki, other government officials, but also various youth and civil society organizations. Now, why did we choose this as a highlight? Because it is one example of peer-to-peer learning. As we found out, it is often much more beneficial and efficient when young people who often share similar experiences but also similar problems learn from each other, because whether it's in the region or in the micro-region, problems and especially solutions are often the same. So it is much more beneficial for them and also for our support when we can bring them together, that they can learn from each other. For our Department for Security and Public Safety, they have 3 projects involving youth. One is an XP project supporting community safety initiatives through local public safety committees, and they are organizing youth camps with the title Youth for a Better Future. There are also 2 other projects, training of trainer sessions involving youth on community safety awareness programs, and awareness-raising workshops to promote the enrollment in the Kosovo police force. Once again, this is then related also to reducing youth unemployment a little bit, because the idea is that youth have more information and then better access for those who would like to join the Kosovo police force. The highlight I would like to mention here is under the UB project, increasing the ability of Kosovo police and other public safety agencies to interact with the public through outreach activities. Under this project, the department is supporting mini Olympic Games for Kosovo children with disabilities. This has been ongoing now for 10 years, and it is planned to hand over the organization and the funding of this event to the government next year. This also shows that the mission, not just in this department, but also in the other 2 departments, is actively engaged in the promotion of rights of people with disabilities. Now to the Human Rights and Communities Department. There are a variety of projects, including youth, such as the UP project promoting interfaith dialogue in Kosovo, promoting equality, non-discrimination, and addressing hate speech in Kosovo, supporting local institutions and civil society to protect and promote cultural heritage of non-Albanian communities, supporting Kosovo institutions to effectively protect language rights, and finally enhancing inter-ethnic community dialogue and cooperation in Kosovo. One of the highlights is the project enhancing institutional responses to gender equality gaps and domestic violence concerns in Kosovo, where the department is organizing trainings and awareness-raising campaigns in high schools in the 4 northern municipalities on gender equality and prevention of gender-based violence and gender discrimination. These are 6-day trainings, which are followed then by a debate. And also very important is that after this event, an informative group was created on the social network Facebook. So far, this information may be a few weeks old. 274 students joined this group, but in general, for many projects, it has become very evident that social media is becoming more and more important. Young people get together, they organize themselves, and they also have a much wider say and can reach a much wider audience through social media, especially Facebook, but also Twitter. And this is becoming more and more used, and we'll also try to support this next year and in the years to come. I think I stayed in my time limit of 7 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oliver, very much appreciated. And I really appreciate also the fact that you've chosen to present your youth-related projects that are a priority also for us in audit. So thank you very much. We can learn very much from experiences of other colleagues in the field. I would like now to invite Max Mathews from the mission to Bosnia and Herzegovina, who is going to give us a presentation on an online presentation. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Max Mathews. I'm a legal advisor on war crimes and transitional justice within the Human Dimension Department of the OSCE mission to Bosnia-Herzegovina. My goal over the next few minutes is to present to you a few ways that our mission has tried to creatively use web-based technology to develop public outreach platforms that are designed to address priority rule of law and human rights issues. Now, these priority issues relate to the mission's efforts to assist post-war Bosnia-Herzegovina to foster peace and reconciliation in the aftermath of the armed conflict during the 1990s. And the issues all focus on our establishing justice for wartime atrocities, helping to foster tolerant communities where expressions of hatred are condemned, and supporting the justice sector to be responsive and transparent. And the mission has had a lot of success supporting the local justice sector's efforts to address these priorities through activities such as legislative reform and capacity building. But today, I am focusing on another necessary component, and that is ensuring that the public has access to information about these efforts. As the expression goes, justice must not only be done, it must also be seen to be done. That is, ensuring transparency is essential to developing a system where citizens can trust and cooperate with judicial institutions and hold them accountable. So let us now have a look. First, I'll explain the BIH War Crimes Case Map. This was launched by the mission earlier this year. As you can see, using a map interface, here we have an interactive tool to provide accessible information regarding war crimes cases adjudicated by courts throughout Bosnia-Herzegovina. This is based on data that's all publicly available, but is collected and compiled by our extensive trial monitoring staff. And the map visually represents war crimes cases that have been completed by a final court decision, and these are represented by various markers. The map can present cases based on either the location of the crime or the location of the court that heard the case. The numbers on the markers indicate the number of cases related to that specific area or court. Clicking on the markers, and here we'll click on the marker regarding cases related to Srebrenica. Clicking on the marker eventually expands them into individual cases, and clicking on the individual markers brings up a caption of the case, and then clicking on the caption will present a case summary that contains basic information about the case, including the name of the accused, the year of the incident, the location, the outcome, the role the accused played during the conflict, what the accused was convicted of, if convicted, and the factual basis underlying the allegations in the indictment. Basically, we developed this tool because, due to the fragmentation of the judiciary in BIH, there was no easy method for citizens to obtain information about the many war crimes cases adjudicated throughout the country's many jurisdictions. So the War Crimes Case Map was meant to fill an information gap so that citizens can learn about the level of progress of the judiciary to deliver justice. At the individual level, citizens can now easily learn about cases that involve specific locations and events that they find important. And from a larger perspective, access to such information enables an informed dialogue about how society is addressing the painful legacy of wartime atrocities. Next, I'll present a monthly publication of the mission called The Hate Monitor. Just bring up up the English version. As you can see, the Hate Monitor presents monthly statistics on the number of hate incidents and various types of hate crimes and hate-related incidents, such as physical violence, property damage, verbal assaults. That's in the top left area here. But also, very importantly, on the right here, the Hate Monitor tracks responses to these incidents by the justice sector, local authorities, and civil society. It also provides an analysis of victim characteristics and data showing the number of incidents over time and criminal cases involving hate crimes, and then at the bottom, a geographic representation of where incidents and responses have taken place. Each month, the report also highlights one response or prevention effort to raise awareness and promote good practices in combating hate. Like the war crimes case map, this initiative also addressed an information gap. No government institution in BIH compiles comprehensive statistics on hate crimes and other hate-related incidents, and therefore citizens did not have access to reliable information about these incidents or the authorities' responses. So such data also supports evidence-based policymaking by local authorities and public officials. Now to the last platform. Building upon our efforts to help communities fight prejudice and intolerance, the mission has worked with citizens, civil society, local community leaders, and the media to develop what are called local coalitions against hate. In the local language, this is called the Supergrađani initiative, and this means super citizens. These coalitions against hate aim to encourage the prevention and reporting of hate-related incidents, a strong public reaction to such incidents, and to hold events and activities focused on creating tolerant, cohesive communities. The mission developed an online forum, as you can see here, as the primary tool of this initiative. And this is to be used by these coalitions against hate, and as a tool for any citizen to engage and connect with others who are seeking to jointly foster tolerance in their communities. This tool launched last November. So this tool allows citizens, or super citizens, to report conflict situations by submitting a report here. But the focus of this tool is primarily on the reporting of a variety of community activities that are focused on preventing hate-related incidents, and activities focusing on building cohesion within the community. And this includes initiatives like the removal of hateful graffiti or other public events related to intercultural tolerance. Information and news about these events and about the coalitions against hate are all readily found on the website. There's also an alerts function, and the forum is linked up with other social media. So, for example, information on incidents and initiatives are exchanged via email and Twitter. Finally, the mapping of conflict and cohesive action provides information used by these coalitions against hate to form working groups that develop what are called community cohesion action plans. And these are essentially local protocols on prevention and response. Currently, this initiative is active in 18 municipalities within Bosnia-Herzegovina, and the feedback we've received shows that this has been very successful in fostering community action on these issues, and greater partnerships among civil society and local authorities as they try to foster greater unity within their communities. So those are the three platforms I wanted to present. Links to each of these can be found on the mission's website. I think I'm out of time, but thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Max, for a very interesting presentation and for sharing with us this tool that actually links so many different things that are of interest also for ODIHR, and I'm sure for other partners, for bringing together justice, hate crime, integrating beneficiaries of your projects into having more active role, into interacting with the system that you have created. So thank you very much. I think it is very inspiring for all of us. And I would like to invite our fourth speaker, Fran Nemarovic from the Office of the Representative for the Freedom of the Media, who is also going to share with us their project work.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I would like to especially thank Sebnem for a very nice overview and illustration about how important the projects are in the context of all our work in terms of the institutions that I represent here, the Representative on Freedom of the Media. We really do depend on the extra budgetary projects for any, let's say, additional issues that we have to deal with, since the unified budget more or less covers our basic running costs. So I would like to just quickly give you an overview of the kind of activities that we have engaged in the past year and which we are looking forward to continue in the following years. One of, let's say, our staple issues and projects are the regional media conferences, where we bring together journalists and media experts in Central Asia, South Caucasus, and Southeast Europe to discuss some of the common issues that they are dealing with and facing as problems in their own regions. And these kind of issues quite often involve basic issues like safety of journalists, which is actually a problem more or less in large part of the OSCE region. Reforms of public broadcasters, which is, there are different issues and problems in different parts of the OSCE region, but reforms of public broadcasters is something that we find key in terms of developing a good media balance and overview in most of the OSCE countries. So this is something that we do, and we thank you for your support in bringing these journalists together. One of the key issues in the future for us is the way that journalism is changing throughout not just the OSCE region, but in basically the whole world. The way media have developed in terms of their online presences, in terms of their social media presences, presents a challenge both to the media themselves, but also to the participating states in how to deal with these changes. And we are very grateful for the support of especially, I think, Sweden in this case, to help us deal with the project of open journalism, is to help you, the participating states, find the answers how to respond to the challenges of open journalism, of content, of comments, of tweets, Facebook posts, and so on, while at the same time preserving basic human rights and freedom of expression. So this is an important process from our perspective, I think from the perspective of the whole of the OSCE, that needs to be dealt with. We had